Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on NewsX. It's time for our special NewsX and Business World panels on the Indian economy. Decoding, of course, how the year really has been like and how fast the recovery will happen once again to take India back to the growth trajectory it was on before the pandemic, and what really needs to be done by government and what needs to be done by businesses themselves to become Atmanirbhar. Let me quickly introduce our panel that's joining us live this evening. We have Vikram Vadhavan, founder and CEO of Vacitum, live with us. Bharat Bevinahali, co-founder of Kutuki, is with us live. Divay Chadha, co-founder and CEO of Growup Group, is joining us live as well. Dilip Hublikar, head of sales, APAC, Prodivance Technologies, is live with us. Dr. Anurag Batra, as always, joins the panel, chairman and editor-in-chief of Business World and Exchange for Media Group. Welcome all of you and thank you so much.
Let me go to the way you heard Vikram and Bharat. They're very optimistic, and that's what gives us hope in this in these times. And India has entrepreneurs that, in spite of all this, are resilient and are creating enterprises that will create jobs and that will add to the GDP, and more importantly, add to the better quality of life. Tell us what has happened in your own business over the last 8 months, and where do you see it going over the next few weeks?
Sure. So thank you so much for having me here, Dr. Anurag. So the very first thing that I would like to point here is, irrespective of the fact that we are optimistic or not, I feel it's very tough to get a V curve here, right? So when I typically talk about the recovery, so even if we have a W curve, right, where you would focus on, that even if there is a dip because of people have started going out, right? So we understand that B2C products or services are going to increase, right? But eventually, the industry that would bring revenue, majority of chunk would be B2B, right? So it will take some time to get on the track. But I think with that optimistic view, where I feel that the vaccine stocks are into consideration, and even if the third wave is there, but if there is a standstill opinion when it comes
the way these are general things, let's focus on your business. We know the background, these are very general things. I want to know specifics about your business and where it is headed.
Correct. So when I typically talk about lockdown and the impact of COVID here on our particular business, then we are particularly focused on gig economy and the remote working culture. Before the actual pandemic happened, we were focused on remote working. Right. So I think we got a kick because of this lockdown. People are more used to remote work. They understand the tools, the productivity tools. Communication these days are not a barrier. There are n number of tools to measure KRAs and KPIs. So when we talk about remote workforce, I think it's going to take a steep curve. So we have been lucky in that way that, there was a bench for us when it comes to growth. So I think during past 3 quarters, precisely, I think we have grown nearly 350%.
Okay, good. And what would you attribute this growth to? And do you see this growth continuing beyond December, beyond January? Do you think this is a growth that is sustainable and possibly there is much more to do than 350% growth? And qualify why do you think so?
Correct. So I think I'll state that with numbers, because when the lockdown one happened, right, then a lot of us were the trust between the employer and the employee was not there, right? But with more tools coming up, with the processes set up, now people are used to remote work, right? I would say that because there were videos all around stating the challenges people were facing when it comes to remote working. But now I think people like remote work not just because of one reason, but because we are also moving ahead and bringing women workforce into the picture, right? Which we were not addressing before, right? So if 48% of our population they are women, then why only 3.7% of people are representing the top women CXOs level, or people who are actually heading those organizations? So I think when I talk about the next few quarters, the growth looks more stable because there are tools, and a lot of companies, they will shoo away from the traditional offices, or the co-working spaces were a boom, right, at one point of time. But the more they rose, their revenues came literally to negative, right? So when I talked about they were making more losses rather than profit, so I think remote work will exist not because of those overheads, office spaces that you will be, saving on, but
the
also
convenience. We've seen that we save travel time, so on and so
there are a
forth.
lot
We
more
understand
things.
where you're going. Let me go to Dilip.
Right. So in the formal sector, obviously, we'll start seeing some sectors doing well. Like you said, business travel, unfortunately, will continue to be impacted. But I do think that we will start seeing a faster recovery in many other sectors as well. But it's important to keep the whole picture in mind.
Thank you so much. I think you're right. The adoption of anything that helps you improve and has technology as an element has gone up. The way you heard Vikram and Bharat, now remote working is going to, I call it work from anywhere. You call it remote working, I call it work from anywhere, not necessarily home. Flexi working. So flexi spaces will thrive. Give us a sense of how do you see the future 12 to 18 months from now? Right now, whatever we are doing, it is out of compulsion. When we have a choice to be able to go to office, what do you think will happen? Do you want to make a prediction on NewsX?
I think, when we talk about remote working, it's just not about work from home, right? Remote working is you work out of a cafe, a beach, anywhere, right? A remote location in mountains. Remote work means you can work out of anywhere and, just for breakthrough results, right? So what I mean to touch here is the talent economy that we are actually working on. Like, for example, if I talked about Bangalore, right? If Bangalore has 80,000 engineers in one particular segment, then for those maybe 15,000 companies, those are their only world to recruit, right? But what if at a lower price some maybe a candidate in Delhi or a candidate in Chennai is sitting with the same kind of skill set at a little feasible amount, right? Then why will the company not reach out, right? So when we fuse gig economy, because you understand freelancers community has boosted, right? So gig economy and talent economy, when we merge it in that way, then maybe 18 months to 24 months down the line, a lot of established companies, like you have heard, you are aware that Fortune 500 companies, maybe 20s of them have actually shut down their 20 plus offices, right? So if that is happening out of compulsion, right? But when given a chance, it's just not about office infrastructure. It's also about your processes that makes you more strong in order to make it more multi-dimensional and multi-diverse, sort of a environment in your company. So maybe 2 years down the line, I think when we talk about remote work, it won't be an option or a compulsion. It would be more of a choice.
Okay.
Divay, the same question to you on your lockdown learning, some lessons you picked up over these last few weeks and months.
So Uday, I'll borrow Vikram's point of agility there, because first thing is that a lot of irreversible changes has happened during COVID, right? So for startups and startup founders, one thing that they have been really good at is they were agile, right? So they were able to pivot even in terms of process, or even in terms of working infrastructure, or even in terms of surroundings, or even in terms of their internal teams, right? So agility is one thing that I've learned. You cannot be adamant or extremely rigid when it comes to your own thought process. The second thing that I've learned, is that probably start delegating few processes, because what I have tried differently during COVID, working remotely, is that previously a lot of companies used to set up a particular process, build a particular team, and just tell them that this is your SOPs, there are KRAs, there are KPIs, start work, right? But when you give them an insight that, okay, this is the ideal goal, eventual goal, okay, you create process. I know first time it would be a shitty process, right? But then they will get deep down inside it, and 3 months or 6 months down the line, if they will start creating processes, then the subjectivity will go, right? So I think in a longer perspective, if you will delegate the art of setting processes to your employees, it could be heads, it could be employees, I think the subjectivity of any business will eradicate to a minimal level.
Okay. As far as now the pickup is concerned, look, we're living in a new normal right now. There are ups and downs, there are peaks and new peaks and waves and new waves. But in terms of going back to pre-COVID levels, when do you see your ventures, your businesses going back to pre-COVID levels? When do you believe demand, supply, sales will be back to that, that position? Will it be, 6 months from now? Will it be 4 weeks from now? Will it be longer? And why? Divay, let's start with you.
So Uday, I think I just mentioned before that probably in COVID has been, I won't say it's a blessing for me because they've been very subjective. But, we raised, our revenues were, good in past 3-4 quarters that I mentioned. So the new normal, it depends on what are you referring to, right? So for example, the economy of February 2020 you are referring to, or of maybe June 2019. There is a difference between both of them, right? Pre-COVID also there was a downfall in economy, right? So I think being relevant would be the only way. If companies will eventually adopt the remote first working culture, their relevance would be more as compared to, again, the agility factor would come into the place where, no, I would wish to go to the office and that's the only way to go about it. I think the change is a little faster than it is projected, but it is there. So the next time I think you invite us, we can always get a cup of coffee or tea with us to, mutually bridge that particular gap.
Okay.